The holiday adverts are everywhere, as it's the time of year when most people are fed up with the cold, dark, wet winter, and they really want to think about where they're going to go on holiday this year. And for a lot of people, that can feel really exciting. They're thinking about traveling to faraway places and exploring the world, getting a rest. But for a growing number of people, the mere thought of leaving home and traveling on holiday fills them with absolute dread, anxiety, and even panic. And you know what? Travel anxiety isn't always about holiday travel. There's a growing number of women and men who are having anxiety attacks whilst driving or commuting on trains or planes. The shock of that one attack can cause them to struggle to travel like they did before. They tell me, why can't I just get in the car or get on the train like I used to? I've lost count of the women coming to me asking for help to be able to drive down the motorway with the kids in the car, but they can't because they fear losing control and harming themselves, their kids, and other people around them. It's so frustrating because they used to be able to travel normally. Commuters could travel normally. And then suddenly the mind starts playing tricks on them. They begin to feel that tension build in the body and they want to avoid traveling at all costs. If you're nodding your head at that, then you do need to listen to the rest of this episode. I'm going to give you some tips on how to travel more confidently and also share with you a resource that could help you start to take the steps towards ending travel anxiety altogether. And how do I know this works? Well, I used to struggle with travel anxiety. It was really, really bad. And now I can travel anywhere. And I've helped hundreds of people become anxiety-free and also to travel again. So I want to say welcome to the Mindset Change Podcast. I'm Paul Shepherd, your host, your mindset coach, your teacher. And if you're serious about upgrading your mindset so you can have the most incredible 2024, then please do subscribe as you don't want to miss out on the life-changing content coming your way. So yes, as I just mentioned, I used to suffer with travel anxiety, so much so that I would feel nauseous, dizzy, panicky, that tension building way before I was meant to be traveling. And I would find it near impossible to travel on the actual day itself. Now, mine came from the trauma of having travel sickness as a child and unfortunately an unsympathetic family who didn't know what to do with me, so they judged me instead. And that caused a real problem when it came to travel. And it was seriously limiting my life. Now, I wanted to travel, but I found myself being plagued by worrying thoughts about being ill, losing control, feeling trapped in a vehicle and unable to leave, and being judged by the people around me. And I didn't want anyone to see that I was anxious. I was so embarrassed about that. I just wanted to blend in on my travels and not be noticed. This is also, by the way, linked to my social anxiety from being bullied as a child too. And it wasn't until I started getting a grip on my anxiety that I experimented to see if I could travel more confidently, and it did. Using some of the tools that I teach my clients and that I will be sharing with you later, I managed to board a flight to New York. Why I chose New York, I can't quite remember, but I do remember sitting in the airport as white as a sheet, every cell, every fiber of my being telling me to just leave and using the tools to just calm down, and eventually my worries and fears began to dissipate. I actually became a bit bored. And for me, this was a very unusual side effect. I felt hungry because normally with travel, I would just feel nauseous and not eat at all. And I remember eating the plainest ham sandwich, which at the time was groundbreaking. Me eating whilst traveling? Unheard of. And as that changed everything for me, I have confidently traveled the world and even stayed on a boat overnight, floating in the most incredible place I've ever been to, which is Ha Long Bay in Vietnam, somewhere you have to go to. And it was something that I swore I would never be able to do. The thought of floating on a boat with seasickness overnight was, for me at one point, a non-negotiable. It wasn't going to happen. But I got there, and so can you. Now, if you struggle with travel anxiety, then you know that it's going to be pretty unique to you. Not everyone experiences it in the same way. I know that one aspect that most of you might really struggle with, and what I struggled with, is the lack of understanding from people around you who simply do not get what you're going through. They might roll their eyes, they might get really frustrated because they too feel powerless in being able to help you. So their natural response can show up as being frustrated with you, losing patience. So if you have a partner who doesn't quite get what you're going through, get them to listen to this episode. And also to note, when I tell people what I coach and help people with, and I say, oh, travel anxiety, a lot of people jump to, oh, what, the fear of the plane crashing? Funnily enough, whilst yes, some people do mention it, but that's quite rare. The most common things that people mention is the fear of losing control somehow whilst traveling. That feeling of powerlessness. Can't get out of the vehicle, plane, train, boat, and just leave. The feeling of being trapped and claustrophobic. That can terrify people, and it really can feel overwhelming. And add to that the fear of being unwell whilst traveling, which I can really relate to, because it comes with a feeling of fear and embarrassment and shame and people noticing you, that you're drawing attention to yourself. So that can really exacerbate the fear of having a panic attack when traveling, because again, there's a powerlessness that comes with that, but also you're drawing attention to yourself. Sensory overload from being in airports, train stations, new environments can feel overwhelming, especially when you are feeling anxious. And something that keeps coming up again and again is the fear of being away from the safety of home, your creature comforts, and not being close to medical facilities. Some people literally pack what looks like a pharmacy for a week or 2-week trip. Medication they won't ever need, but hey, the mind is very good at playing out a very catastrophic what-if story, and then let's just take it just in case. And it's astonishing what people really do pack. But that is the power of travel anxiety for you. Now, I think this is probably one of the biggest fears that link to travel anxiety that comes up again and again. And it's the fear of traveling and then not being able to get to a bathroom easily, especially on trains and planes where facilities can be limited. So travel anxiety and bathroom anxiety are really closely linked. And again, is something that I help a lot of people with. Because I tell you, when it comes to bathroom anxiety or travel anxiety just on its own, intrusive thoughts of catastrophizing, that something bad will happen on that journey, can really play on your mind and try and get you to avoid traveling altogether. So how can you get traveling again? And yes, you can get traveling. Now, I'm fortunate to get texts all the time from clients who didn't think they could travel, were very skeptical. I remember their first ever consultations with me and are looking at me with that strange look of, are you really going to be able to help me? Because nothing has worked so far. And now they're sending me pics of wherever they are in the world thanks to the work that they've put into this. I mean, it's been brilliant, but also to the anxiety coaching and the tools and strategies that they became confident in using along the way. So some things that we would have gone into, and here's some tips for you, are you really do need to learn to regulate your nervous system and really calm it down. Breathwork, meditation, really learning to breathe out longer so that you trigger your parasympathetic nervous system, which tells the brain you are safe. So learning breathwork is an essential way to begin to take control. Allow your prefrontal cortex, your rational mind, to be more dominant when you're on the move. If your limbic system, which is linked to the sympathetic nervous system, so if you're shallow breathing or with longer breaths on your inhale, stimulating the sympathetic, then your limbic system, your emotional and survival center, can begin to become more dominant, and then you'll find yourself being quite reactive to your situation. So I promise you, learning breath work as a foundation will really help you move towards traveling again. And when your nervous system is heightened, you're more likely to experience an increase in illusionary, negative, and catastrophizing stories in your mind that want you to react to them as if they are real. We evolved that process, so there's nothing wrong with you, but they are so much more believable when your nervous system is heightened. And when you begin to calm your nervous system down, it's interesting how you begin to see through these illusions of the mind, and they can just begin to disappear. But travel anxiety will do its best to trap you in your mind. And this leads you to begin the overthinking process, where you try to find that magical thought or solution which will make your anxiety go away. So you're lost in thought. And it's not likely to even work because the alarm is in your body. That is where you're experiencing anxiety. But we're kind of tricked into thinking it's happening all up here inside our heads. But if you get lost in that overthinking process, you'll increase anxiety to the point where you either force yourself to travel, which is deeply, deeply unpleasant, or you avoid traveling altogether, which of course can leave you feeling guilty and ashamed, especially if you are feeling that you have let other people down. And I promise you that the biggest mistake I ever made with anxiety was believing that it was all in my head. It's a physical condition creating mental health symptoms. And if you begin to just come out of your mind and into your body with some breath work, soothing, allowing and accepting the anxiety just to be there. So ABC it. Allow, accept the anxiety, don't fight it. Breathe into it, so longer exhales. Breathe down to the belly, so slow and low. And then choose to label the anxiety. This reduces it even further. This is just anxiety. This is just travel adrenaline, adventure adrenaline. So you're kind of acknowledging that that surge in the body, which is quite natural when you're excited, is actually quite normal. And the problem with anxiety for a lot of people is not the anxiety symptoms themselves. It's their relationship with it. It's their perception of anxiety that is the problem. But when you accept it, allow it to be there, breathe into it, and choose to just label it, anxiety begins to settle. It might take a few goes, and that's okay. You're training yourself. But the more you practice, the more you rewire your brain to make this a very easy and natural process. And that's what my clients tell me. Now, to make things also easier for yourself, there are some classic mistakes people make when traveling. So do your best, if you can, to avoid these. And the hardest, I think, for a lot of people is going to be getting decent sleep before you travel. And I know that's hard, but if you can, that will really help you travel on the day. try and avoid caffeine or keep it at a minimum, because it really can heighten your nervous system. And also, if you do have bathroom anxiety, it will make you want to use the loo much more often. And another thing, which I don't know what it's like for you in whatever country you're in, but here in the UK, there's a strange ritual where people post their pictures of pints, no matter what time of the morning it is, on Facebook from something called a Wetherspoons. It's a pub. And they're having their first holiday drink of the day. So if that's you normally, avoid that. Anxiety is massively increased by alcohol. Remember that it's a powerful neurotoxin which thins out your cognitive functions in your brain, so it impairs them. And also, it can trigger your hypothalamus to send signals out to the rest of the brain that you are in danger. And it can do this for days after drinking. So I know that some people use it as a sedative, but the impact will make it much worse for you. And also, if you're vaping or using any type of nicotine product, you're hyping your nervous system up to be overstimulated. So let's just calm it down. So again, keep it at a minimum if you have to use those products. And for people with bathroom anxiety, dehydrating yourself isn't going to help here either. That's seriously impairing your cognitive functions. So remain hydrated. I can promise you it will make your travel experience easier. Though you can't take my word for it, you will have to explore this with yourself. And if you use the tools and strategies which I'll be sharing with you, then you can calm down your nervous system, drink what you need to, and not worry so much about having to use the bathroom on the way. And anxiety can trick you into having quite a controlling mindset. Trying to control a future that doesn't exist. Trying to avoid things in the future which doesn't even exist. That's the power of feeling anxious. So a mistake you can make is trying to over-control your journey all the way. It is better to learn to relax, to surrender, and go with the flow. And yes, that does take some work, but my God, it is worth it. Other mistakes that people make, as I mentioned earlier, they don't regulate their nervous systems. They don't know how, with breath work, to calm their nervous system down. And from that, they will fight their anxiety. They will really resist those thoughts, really resist their feelings. And what we resist persists. So learning to accept your anxiety is an absolute game changer. And something that I think we all need to learn. It's something that I've been very grateful, even though I didn't quite get it at first, is to learn mindfulness. Because with any type of anxiety, your mind is going to terrorize you with all types of negative thoughts. And learning to detach yourself from that, to be able to step back and let those thoughts just pass on by like clouds in the sky, again, is another game changer. But you do have to train your mind to make it much easier for yourself. Firefighting on the day itself is too much to expect from you. So don't leave it until the last minute before you start working on your mind to help you travel. Now, all of what I do forms a coaching package where I help people develop what I believe is the ultimate mindset. And one part of that is the ability to be able to easily see through the illusions of your mind. And I want to make something very clear to you, that the only thing holding you back in life are negative illusions the mind creates which cannot even be true. Everything you truly want in life is sitting on the other side of fear. And your fear is an illusion. And when you develop the ability to not believe those illusions, and they're really believable at times, you become unstoppable. There's nothing stopping you if you are perceiving your thoughts for the illusionary content that they are. And this is waking up. This is what waking up is all about, to be able to see through the illusions of life. And that, for me, is the ultimate mindset. Just imagine what you would achieve in any area of your life: travel, business, relationships, finances, if you began to see through the illusions that your mind tries to hypnotize you into believing. I wonder what you would experience next. Now, I've been asked over and over to create a course, something easy for people to download so that they can travel, that they can get rid of their anxiety, that they can get their lives back. Because I can only coach so many people one-to-one and in groups. And I've always wanted to be able to point people to a resource to help them get their lives back. And I collaborated with New Mind Wellness, and we have done exactly that. You now have access and can download to your phone or desktop my anxiety-free masterclass, which includes tools, strategies, mindset meditations, hypnosis sessions in a 6-week low-cost course where you can take those essential steps to be anxiety-free and to travel again. You will find a link in the show notes. And if you don't know how to access the show notes, the app that you're using, you should be able to scroll down and you will see information about this show. There will be a link there. And if you click that, not only will you get the first week for free, so you can start with the essentials immediately. As a listener to this show, and to thank you for being a listener to this show, you will get 20% off of the total course too. Now, I'm doing everything I can to help as many people as I can become anxiety-free and to travel again. Now, of course, some of you might be thinking, well, I prefer the personal touch. I'm someone who doesn't really do online courses. I need guidance face-to-face or on Zoom at least. And if that's you, of course, you can reach out to ask about coaching with me. Again, my details are in the show notes. And this podcast is an amazing resource. Use the non-sleep deep rest meditations, use the anxiety healing meditations and sessions to help train your nervous system to calm down. And I would say to you, don't let anxiety ruin your travel plans this year. Don't let anxiety stop you getting into the car or commuting to where you want to go. Life is too precious and too short to be held back by tricks of the mind. So take the time to invest in yourself. Take the time to take those essential steps to become anxiety-free. Thank you so much for spending your time and energy with me. I want to say again, thank you to everyone on Spotify and Apple reviews who are letting me know what you think of this podcast by reviewing episodes and this show. It truly is appreciated. So thank you so much. I look forward to connecting with you in the very next episode. Have a wonderful, peaceful, and present day.